Thank you for tuning in to another episode of the Co-Courtside podcast. My name is Alex Kokoros, and today I have the pleasure of being here with one of the best play-by-play voices in all of sports, Michael Grady. How you doing today, Michael?
I'm great. I'm great, Alex. Good to be on with you, my man. Appreciate you.
I Again, thank you so much for taking the time. One, because obviously Thanksgiving's tomorrow, and two, I mean, you could speak on it a little bit. Your schedule must be, I can't imagine how hectic it is ever since the season's been in full swing.
Yeah. It's been nuts. I was telling my sister earlier, it's a little disorienting when you're about to get on a flight and then you get an alert that it's time to check in for the next flight. So no, it's been crazy, but I wouldn't change it, man. This is being able to do this and being able to travel and call these great games with amazing people, man. It's a dream come true for sure.
Yeah, so for those who don't know, Michael, you've been the play-by-play voice for the Timberwolves since 2022, and most recently you've joined both of the NBA's newest networks, Prime Video and NBC on Peacock. What was the process with that like? And I'm guessing, when you get two networks like that wanting you'd be happy any day of the week, right?
Oh yeah, 100%. I went into that whole process thinking if I can just land one of them, it would be a huge career highlight for me. Whether it was Amazon with what they were doing brand new and being able to be lead voice on the W side in addition to doing what I'm doing for the NBA, tremendous. And then the NBA on NBC, that's what I grew up on. When people hear, any joy in my voice or any excitement or whatever it is, my fandom was the genesis of my fandom comes from watching the NBA on NBC. So to be able to for that story to come full circle is fantastic. So and then I've developed a family with the Minnesota Timberwolves and the fan base and the crew on FanDuel Sports Network. And so even though I'm not doing as many games, it makes each game that I do feel eventful to be able to work with colleagues that again I see as family.
So right, so that's kind of my next question. How far in advance do you know what your schedule is going to be for the week? Because obviously, this Monday you were calling the Houston Phoenix game for NBC. Prime, it's more of on the weekend side of it, and I guess Timberwolves more during the week. How does that work usually?
Yeah, it just kind of I've got an idea of my schedule through All-Star break, which is
Okay.
good.
Okay.
And so I get my games from both the NBC Peacock and then the Amazon side, and then I see where I can fit in, the Timberwolves game. So my next Timberwolves game will be I'll have one of those games against New Orleans that first week in December, which will be great. And yeah, just try to make it work, make sure I have my flights coordinated, get on the right flight. Um, and but it's good, man. Adrenaline is definitely adrenaline and obviously love for the game and the great people that I get to work with is carrying me. So it hasn't felt too overwhelming so far.
Yeah, I'm sure like a hoop junkie like you and having a job like that, you must love it, right? Like you said, just the
So yeah.
adrenaline, right?
Yeah, I wanted to do this since I was 11. So,
Yeah.
so to be in this position, definitely, the story is just getting. So I've been doing this and little things around media and sports and the NBA for quite some time, but I feel like the journey is just now getting started.
I know you've been calling national games for, a couple years now, but how was that transition at first in terms of the preparation when you're calling a team like the Timberwolves, who are really, you're with the whole entire year, compared to a national game where, you're maybe a little more unfamiliar with the players and you're gonna have to build up more of, notes to go along with that.
Yeah, I think the it's I wouldn't unfamiliarity I guess is fair from the sense of when you're with a team day in and day out and flying with the team and understanding the ins and outs of a squad, the in-depth personality of the players and little things like that. That goes a long way when you're doing a local broadcast. I've said this a number of times. My time in Brooklyn from 2017 up to 2022 when I left was a baptism in education. Being able to watch Ian Eagle and Ryan Ruocco on a day in and day out basis. And Ian's been doing this a long time. And when you watch a Yes Network broadcast and then you watch, let's say, dating back to last season, a TNT broadcast, or of course, Ian on CBS, there's not a difference
Hmm.
between Ian on CBS, TNT, or Yes Network. He walks into every Yes Network broadcast as if it's a national broadcast.
Right.
And so if it's the Nets taking on the Wizards, if it's the Nets taking on the Lakers, if they're taking on the Pelicans, whoever it may be, he's as prepared as anybody. So if you're watching on League Pass and you happen to tune into the Yes Network side of things for, let's say, again, Nets versus Pelicans, you feel like Ian is giving your team the proper respect and you're enjoying the broadcast because he's bringing enthusiasm, he's bringing knowledge, and he's elevating the game. Same thing with Rucco. And so that was my education when I was getting into this, getting into the traveling NBA side. And so when I stepped in and started doing Timberwolves broadcasts as their full-time play-by-play, that was my approach. If it's Timberwolves taking on whoever it may be, if you happen to be a fan that's watching on League Pass and you're a fan of the other team and not the Timberwolves, I want you to walk away feeling that this was an elevated broadcast, that I was knowledgeable about your team, and hopefully you felt that you were entertained as well. And so that helps the transition when you start doing national broadcasts. And my first national broadcast was with Turner on the NBA TV side, and then I was able to get a TNT game, and then the next season I was able to do ESPN. But if you approach every local broadcast as if it's a national broadcast, it's not as steep of a transition.
Probably a broad question, but just using the Houston Phoenix game on Monday as an example,
Mhm.
when does the preparation start for a game like that, or just any game? Because you said it's all the same.
Yeah, it's yeah, you try to work ahead of time if you can. There's some stuff that you can't do until the day before or that morning.
Right, that's a good point. Yeah.
Phoenix, for example, had a game against San Antonio the night before that Houston Phoenix game. And so I had to watch that. Then there's updated stats and all those things that you have to make sure that you're on top of. You're paying attention to trends and different things like that. You can't just call a game based off of season stats. You kind of have to understand what guys have been doing in the last handful of games so that you can tell a full story. So again, if I'm calling that, it's Houston and Phoenix, and let's just say one of the players on the team is averaging 20 points per game, but in the last five, they've been averaging about 8 because they've been struggling. They got off to a hot start, and now they're in a cold streak. And all I do is go, hey, he's averaging 20 points per game. He's having a great season. He's been on a roll. Well, that audience for that team is going to go,
Yeah.
he's not really paying attention. So you have to be cognizant of trends and different things like that, so that you have as full a picture as you possibly can to
Mhm.
tell that story. So it starts days before. You really get into it, a couple of days before, and then you're really polishing up the night before, and then the morning of game day, putting a bow on everything.
Yeah, I've heard other broadcasters say how, they could have someone do the stat job for them, building up notes, but it would kind of defeat the purpose because, they want to, have all the knowledge because it helps with their preparation. I'm sure you're like that too, right?
Yeah, Brian Anderson, great play-by-play guys with TNT, told me, and it kind of caught me off guard when he first said it. But you don't want to memorize; you want to absorb. And it took probably until my second year with the Timberwolves for that to really sink in terms of what he meant. I don't want to have someone else do my stats. I want to
Hmm.
do it myself, and I've got a system to where it's pretty efficient, and by logging in each stat, points, rebounds, assists, little nuggets and trends and things like that, I'm absorbing that information. And as you get repetitive with this in your preparation and you're watching games and things like that, you almost surprise yourself in the middle of a broadcast where you don't have to look down. You have that information right here ready to
Right.
go. My rookie year with the Timberwolves, in my early days of doing play-by-play, I had to look down. So a guy would score a basket, and then I would look down to try to find the nugget on
Yeah.
the guy, and then the pace of the game, I might miss a hoop on the other end, and it was super frustrating early on. But this is the value of every rep. And it's not just reps with the end game calling, it's the reps with the preparation.
Mhm.
And my improvement in terms of preparation and just the repetitive nature of doing it game in and game out um, improved my retention in the midst of the game to where I don't have to look down as much, which was golden for me. And that's when I really felt like I was in the
Right.
matrix when it comes to calling games. So So yeah, the preparation part is massive.
Right. You talk about the preparation and, repetition. Like going back to your early days, you started out, on the radio side. Um, After school, you also did sideline stuff for the Nets. How much did, just not even play by play, but being in sports production and doing anything you can just help you in general, jump start your career?
Yeah, I was just I mentioned my sister already. We had to do a Thanksgiving last night because I'm traveling on the actual holiday. But I was just talking about how the season was going, how things were going, and I was just talking about uh, building trust and elevating your partner, and how it just makes it makes the broadcast sound enjoyable for a listener because it sounds like two friends
Right.
having fun. And even I'm working with a lot of people for the first time. And if listeners walk away going, oh, they've known each other for years, that's a win for the
Yeah.
broadcast.
Yeah.
And that doesn't come out of thin air. If I had started off my career with just doing play by play, that may have been a longer process. But I started off doing radio. And I grew up listening to radio shows and co-hosts who sounded like family. And I felt like I was eavesdropping on a family conversation, whether it was jokes or whether it was a heated conversation. It sounded like family. And I really, from a young age, wanted to do that. I really wanted to be a part of that. And so I got my opportunity in Indianapolis hosting a midday sports talk show. And I did that for 8 years. And the experience that I got from that, and again, elevating your partner, if your partner's shining, you're shining. Um, Having an entertaining and informative conversation that sounds engaging to the audience. This sounds weird, but you almost are simultaneously having a conversation, but also listening at the same time, saying, is this something that I would want to listen to if I'm in my car?
Yeah.
And in the moment, if it's like, oh, this sounds terrible, then you got to shift it. You got to elevate the energy or do whatever in the moment. And so there's a couple of things happening at the same
Mhm.
time. And I was able to really build that exercise on the radio side, so that on the game side now is play by play. You're calling the game, you're calling the action, but you can also banter. You can also, have some fun with your partner again, um, allowing your partner to shine. And again, I say all of that to say that experience in radio
Mhm.
helped me.
Yeah.
Ad-libbing, that I remember when I started doing TV, there was something wrong with the prompter, and they were like, "I'm really sorry. We need you to ad lib for 30 seconds."
Yeah.
And I was like, no problem. I do
Got it. You've been there before.
yeah,
Yeah.
I do 10, 15 minute segments on the radio uninterrupted with no script. So I wouldn't change my journey at all. And that radio side really helped me. So I always encourage people, say yes a lot. Take advantage of all these different experiences that you can. Keep it in mind your ultimate goal, and you'll really be surprised in the long run how you pull from all these experiences and how it helps you in the future doing the job that you ultimately wanted to do from day one.
Right. So ultimately, when you were having that radio show, you're gaining a lot of experience from it, but in the back of your mind, was it always still, I want to be play by play by the end of it?
Yeah, you know what's funny? I was so in the moment that it was in the back of my it wasn't lost. It was in the back of my mind, but I was
Mhm.
so in the moment. There were so
Right.
many things that I wanted to do. I remember in college I asked what I wanted to do when I got out of school, and I said I wanted to be a broadcast professional. I didn't say I wanted to be play-by-play. I didn't say I wanted to be a radio host or a NBA PA announcer or anything like that. I said I wanted to be a broadcast professional. Being a radio host was so appealing to me growing up. I really wanted to do that. And when I started off in radio, I was just a board op. And then I started producing, and then I was executive producer, and I was executive producer for our Rush Hour Drive evening show. And if you had told me, asked me right then, are you ready to be a host yourself? I would have said no. But I was producing for two guys who didn't have experience in radio. And so they would go through these seminars, they would go through all different types of things, and I would be right there with them. And I watched these guys have successes. I watched these guys have failures. and I learned and absorbed everything that was happening. And then within a period of time, I was ready and I was pitching myself like I think I can do this. And
Wow.
so it took a little time, but then I got my opportunity. And then I was doing television. I was a sports anchor in Indianapolis. I was a PA announcer. And then I got the job in New York to be in 2017 to be the sideline reporter. In 2017, if you had said, Michael, are you ready to do play by play? I would have said no.
Wow.
Um, but I watched Ian, observed Ian. I watched Ryan Rucco, and I learned so much, so much from those guys. And by the time I had wrapped up my 5 years, and I got to give a shout out to Chris Carino to the radio for the Brooklyn Nets, and he's given me invaluable advice as well. But once those 5 years were up, you said, Michael, are you ready for play-by-play? I was as confident a guy as there was about it being my time to do play-by-play. So again, I thankful for the journey and pulling from all those different experiences. Play-by-play was always the goal,
Mhm.
but I had little mini goals along the way to where I had kind of blinders on. I knew what the ultimate goal
Right.
was, but I kind of had blinders on. And I had little opportunities here and there to do play-by-play. I would call state championship game in one of the classes for high school in Indiana. And that was it. I was doing one game a year, one or two
Right.
games a year, just high school basketball stuff. So yeah, I when I say I appreciated every step of the journey, I literally mean I appreciated every step.
And you can attest this too more than anyone. It's probably in this industry, especially so important to be versatile. Like you're on the, producer side behind the scenes, and then that allowed you to get, the radio position. I think versatility is a very important aspect in this industry.
Yeah. I think some people scoff at versatility. They say, no, I'm just a play-by-play guy or I'm just a radio host guy. And they don't want to get pigeonholed or do any other roles. And I just feel like you're again, there are success stories, but I just personally feel that you're kind of sabotaging your own growth in that sense.
Right.
I think sometimes people feel like if I say yes to, let's say it's sideline reporting, um, if I may get pigeonholed as a sideline reporter and I may not get an opportunity to get play-by-play because people are only going to see me as this.
Mhm.
And so some people go to the extreme and just kind of half-ass it. And when people go, oh, you're not very great in that role. Well, I told you I was a play-by-play guy.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
now you're not going to get trusted as a play-by-play guy because you
Right.
screwed that so much. And so I'm thankful that I had superiors who said, Michael's killing this. Let's see if he can do this. Oh, Michael did great in this. Let's see if he can do this. And I felt like I was consistently challenged. And so when another opportunity came, it was like, even though this isn't my ultimate goal,
Mhm.
I'm going to try to knock this out of the park. And I feel like that really helped me along the way.
I want to ask, go back to you were kind of talking about building that chemistry with your partner in the booth, and for you, you're working with a bunch of new people. What's the solution? Like, because at times maybe the connection's not there from the beginning, or it starts out a little rough. Like, how do you fix that mid game? Maybe if that makes sense.
Yeah, I think it's you have to figure out the pacing. I think a great example of that is we're doing these on the bench games for Peacock, and it's new, it's unconventional, and it's been a while. It's been ages since someone tried something different in broadcasting when it comes to how you call an NBA game. And so, for example, for those who haven't seen it, Robbie Hummel and Austin Rivers have been doing it so far this season, and Austin Rivers is on one bench specifically covering that team. He'll go to their shoot around. He visits with the coach before the game. He is telling the story of that from that team's perspective and literally calling the game from their bench. And then Robbie Hummel is doing the same on the other bench. So Monday night, for example, you brought up Phoenix, Houston. Austin Rivers was with Houston. Robbie Hummel was with Phoenix. I think this was our fourth week together. And the first week, excuse me, I had stepped in after Noah Eagle had done the first 2 weeks. And it took me about almost 2 quarters to
Hmm.
get a feel of the rhythm. These guys that already had built-in chemistry from doing it 2 weeks prior,
Hmm.
and here I was stepping in, and I initially was calling the game as if it was a regular broadcast, as if my partners were right next to me.
Right.
I'm storytelling and kind of painting the picture and setting the scene and doing all these things and calling the action and then trying to step aside for those guys to come in. But the uniqueness of that broadcast is these guys are helping tell the story. They're literally telling the story in real time with everything that they've learned during the day and everything that's happening around them in the moment. And so I got to pull back. And it took me a couple of quarters to go, pull back. They're telling the story and they're damn good,
Right.
by the way. So and then we found the rhythm. And I think it's been tremendous. And I think the one of the process that you have is just building trust. I have some broadcasts where I'm working with people who are very familiar with me as a play-by-play guy. And so the trust is already there. I know you can crush it. I know who you are and I know your flow and boom, we vibe right then. And then there's some people who aren't as familiar with me as a play-by-play announcer, and you kind of have to earn their trust on the fly, and prove that you're knowledgeable, prove that you're going to give them space, show that you're going to give them space to shine, and that you're not bringing ego to the broadcast. And once they feel comfortable and settled, then they can then levity comes out. They're enjoying it because at the end of the day, this is a game, and
Right.
I say all the time, we got to have fun with it. So I would say the number one thing is just building trust, and once you have that trust and you're able to rib and laugh at each other and enjoy the game and enjoy these calls and the greatest athletes in the world doing amazing things on the floor, it just makes it an enjoyable experience for the audience, we hope. Like the genesis of my education was growing up listening to Mark Boyle, who's the radio play-by-play voice of the Indiana Pacers, later working with Mark Boyle on the radio station, first as a board op during Pacer games. And then I actually did color in 2014 with
Wow.
Mark Boyle during the Pacers postseason run. But he told me when I was still in college, and I reached out to him for a project I was working on, to speak to someone in the field that you want to be a part of. And he told me, over prepare, don't over present. And that's like really important advice, because you can do all the research in the world. And then you go on the broadcast and you start to spew all these facts and these nuggets and these
Mhm.
analytics and all these things. And you just bore the hell out of the audience. And then you tell the story from an egocentric approach, because this is what you research and you're going to get this out. And that's not fun, and it's not cool, and it's not enjoyable to listen to. So what you want to do is you want to prepare, and then the game itself is going to tell you what the story is. So
Right.
if you can be selfless within the flow of the game and say, even though I'm prepared, if there's a blowout and stuff goes, whatever it is,
Yeah.
but you want to let the game tell the story, and then you just ride that wave. You just ride whatever wave comes your way within the flow of the game. So that's probably the most important thing. You're ready for anything, but you let the game unfold and follow along.
And back to the Austin Rivers and Robbie Hummel new format. It's got to be even weird the fact that they're not next to you in the booth, right? Because usually maybe sometimes you'll hit your partner, you can have that kind of back and forth, but the fact that they were that far, I had to get used to a little bit.
Yeah, I really don't have. I mean, I give all the credit to Sam Flood. This was his love project and idea, and it's been on us to execute it. And I got to think more about it. I just don't have an explanation other than it's just magic in the moment. And which sounds a little weird. It sounds a little weird to say, but your point is valid. I was a little questioning the idea because I want my guys next to
Mhm.
me. We
Right.
can rib, we can communicate. I can look over at them. We can, who wants to jump in here or there or whatever it may be. You like that? That's traditional. The fact that the guys are across the court and you don't have that same energy next to you, and the fact that we're able to flow and make it work speaks to, one, it being a great idea, speaks to the professionalism and the talent of both Austin Rivers and Robbie Hummel, because I can make eye contact with them. I can look over and make eye contact with Austin, and we still have a connection in terms of he's
Right.
going to jump in. I can do the same with Robbie. They can't see each other. they could stand up and still not be able to see each other. And they have found a chemistry on when to jump in, when to bounce off of each other, and they figured that out, which again, I can't really explain other than those guys are just tremendous and in a short amount of time have built tremendous chemistry. So yeah, I know a lot of folks were skeptical about it, especially those who have, background in broadcasting. And I hope people have enjoyed the broadcast. I feel like it's been a lot of fun. I feel like the teams have embraced it in terms of what we're doing. And with each passing week, we're getting more and more of their trust. But at the end of the day, we're just enjoying the game and we're having fun calling the game. And that Phoenix game in particular, it had no Kevin Durant. There were a number of guys out for both teams, and it was a joy. It was a joy of a broadcast to call. So yeah, it should feel like three friends or two friends that are just out there talking the action. And the proof is that it doesn't matter where you're sitting. If
Right.
if you got buddies who are talking the game, you're gonna have a great time, and hopefully it's an enjoyable listen.
That's a good point you bring up because it's like people are saying, "Oh, how do you communicate between the two of them?" But between Robbie Hummel and Austin Rivers, how are they communicating? Because they're doing the same job, but on the other, opposite sides of the
Yeah,
bench and court. So that's another curveball. And
yeah.
how do you know when it's after the broadcast? Are you like, yeah, this was like three friends on the couch talking, watching a game, like we nailed it. Do you know? Do you have that feeling right after the broadcast, like
No, you feel it in the moment. You feel
the
like
moment?
you're evaluating yourself in the middle of the moment, and maybe that's something that takes some time. I feel like maybe earlier in my career, if I stumbled over something or I felt like I screwed something in the first quarter, it affected me the rest of the game.
Yeah,
And so it takes time to go snap out of it. Like in the moment, screw that, it's over.
yeah,
Crush
right.
every moment moving forward. You miss a call, you miss a moment, a big dunk or something like that, and you don't really meet the moment, or you misidentify a player. Earlier in my career, that would have messed me up. And so again, with each rep, you just you get better, you get amnesia, and you're never done learning. You know what I mean?
Right.
I'm still early in my career. I've learned a lot already with the reps that I've had, and I still have so much to gain and learn and all that stuff. So as I was saying earlier when I was talking about my radio career, you're simultaneously having a conversation and trying to entertain the audience. And then you're also, listening from the view of the audience is like, is this something that I would enjoy? Because at the end of the day, I'm still a fan. I still love the game. And I whether it's podcast, whether it's play by play, whatever it may be, I'm still a fan. So in the moment, while talking and communicating, I can also listen and go, oh, this sounds like crap. It's time to shift the energy. Or no, this is fun. This is flowing, and you feel it. And that's the addicting part of broadcasting, in my opinion. I'm not a golfer, and I've used this analogy before, but I think one of the things that's appealing for golfers is that this pursuit of perfection. You're never going to be perfect on the golf course, but every time you go out there, you're kind of pursuing it a little bit more. And you're going to have your good days, you're going to have your off days, but no matter what day you have, it fuels you for wanting to do it again. So if you have a great day, it's like, oh my God, I can't wait to get back out there and see if I can better it
Right.
and see if I can get on a roll. And if you have a tough day, you can't wait to get back out there to get that bad taste out of your mouth. And that's what's addicting about these broadcasts. You're inevitably with so many games going to have moments that you wish you can have back, but there's going to be another game. There's going to be another game within a week or the next day or whatever it may be. And so it's highly addicting for me.
Yeah, I was gonna say it's one you could say, oh, I screwed up this call in the first quarter, but with the
Mhm.
NBA, these guys are making highlights every other play. It's easy to get it back. You
Yeah,
call Anthony Edward games, miss a poster dunk, possession later, he'll do it again. So
he'll do it. He'll do it
right.
again. He'll do it again. So that's um, and so yeah, that just comes with experience and being able to shake things off or whatnot. I would use the analogy about being in traffic, like you do something stupid intersection or something like that, and somebody honks at you and you feel dumb, and you might have the rest of your 15
Yeah.
minute drive home, you're feeling stupid.
Yeah.
But after a block or two, nobody around you knows what the hell you did
Yeah.
two intersections ago.
Totally.
So get the hell over it. So,
Yeah.
so yeah, it's having quick amnesia so that you can have a quality broadcast is important.
Um, for someone who's, just out of college or looking to break into the sports industry, what would some advice be, for someone looking to break into it and starting their career in this industry?
If the love is there, then nothing can stop you. If and that's numero uno. If someone just wants the shine of being on television, it's not going to work out for you. You have to really love the game, and if you love the game, then you're going to put in the effort when it comes to the preparation. One of the best experiences of my career, and I've said this multiple times, was being able to watch Kevin Durant specifically, but also Kyrie Irving in practice, and the way those guys approached every rep, and to see how that then translated to games. Um, Kevin Durant is not great by accident. Kyrie Irving is not great by accident. LeBron, Kobe, any great player, SGA, Luca, these guys, Joker, they're not great by accident. And the work that they put in behind the scenes allows them to shine when the lights are on. And so to simply say, yeah, I want to call games, or yeah, I want to be a radio host, and not be willing to do the dirty work it takes to really excel in that role shows that the passion is not really there. So one, making that differentiation and understanding, oh no, I eat, sleep, breathe this. I care about broadcasting. I care about the art of broadcasting. And if that's the starting point, and then just putting in the work. And there's all kind of ways to do it. Uh, Zora Stevenson is a tremendous announcer, and she's doing play-by-play in college and on the WNBA side. And I read a story that she would call a game off of television, and her husband would do the color commentary, and it was just a way for her to get mental reps. I don't play video games anymore, but I used to simulate a 2K game, and I would call play by play. I would turn the announcers off and I would call play by play off of NBA 2K. Um, or I would mute an actual game and do it. And it was just figuring out a way to get reps. Uh, and so I use that as just an example of just finding any way to get some practice in. Um, Knock on doors, reach out to people, network, get a foot in the door. Even if that first opportunity isn't in play by play, you'd be surprised at where it could take you if you just get a foot in the door. And talk to people who are in the industry so you have an understanding of, what it is that you're getting into. But again, there's just no excuse to find any way of getting a rep, and then as you continue to go, then your reputation and your work precedes you.
Hmm.
And at that point there's no stopping you.
Michael, man, I really appreciate you for taking the time today, and I learned a lot too just by listening to you. So, um, again, I really appreciate the time, man.
No, anytime, my guy. I appreciate you,
But
Alex.
we'd love to keep in touch and stuff. So, yeah,
Absolutely.
yeah, happy holidays, and have a good one.
Sounds good. Have a great
All
Thanksgiving,
right.
my man.
You too. Bye.
Take care, brother.
You too.